Okay, guys, welcome back to another edition of Rotten Reviews. On this one, I'm going to take a look at the infamous Battlefield Earth from the year 2000. It has a tomato meter score of 3% and an audience score of 12%. This movie is infamous. It's infamously rotten. It is the subject of memes. It is the subject of legend. It is, in a lot of ways, so bad that it's good. It's fun to bag on it. It's fun to trash it. It's fun to just make a career out of highlighting the ridiculousness of it. But this is an old one. This is from 19 years ago, almost 20 years ago now. This is just an update to see, what the younger kids think about this. Speaking for myself, I read this novel from L. Ron Hubbard when I was in high school, and I enjoyed it as a 16-year-old. I considered it for what it was. It was outlandish science fiction adventure set in a post-apocalyptic Earth. It was a very big book, very wordy. I don't remember how many words, but certainly a Bible of science fiction literature. I'm not saying it was good or bad, but I did enjoy it. It kept me company on many, many nights, staying up late on weekdays to be entertained before I fell asleep. So, I didn't have high hopes for this as a movie adaptation in 2000 because there had been rumors for many years since the 80s that this would be made into a movie, and it never was. So I had pretty much come to believe that if it was ever made into a movie, it would be a piece of crap. And sure enough, it didn't disappoint in that regard, but it did fail so hard that it even shocked me how hilarious it had become. Watching John Travolta play his role as an alien overlord in such a straight up, straight, serious fashion, while the movie falls to pieces around him, and literally all his co-stars are realizing how bad this is, but he continues to play this straight, and it's so bad it's good. You could crack open a beer, watch this, and just laugh at it. In fact, you don't even have to be inebriated to crack a laugh over this. You just wonder how the hell something like this was made. Again, L. Ron Hubbard, of course, is the author. He was the creator of Scientology. It's well known by now in 2019 that John Travolta is far into Scientology. He's a Scientologist. This was some kind of Scientology thing for him at the time in the year 2000. This was going to somehow promote Scientology and bring it, bring it out into the light, so to speak. Maybe counteract the negative stuff that was going on the internet at the time regarding Scientology. In any case, it really doesn't do that. It just provides us with something for nearly 2 decades to laugh at. So let's go right into the rotten reviews and just see how many people actually were angered and how many people can just take this as comedy and laugh. Half a star. This movie was horrendous. I can't believe I sat through the entire thing without puking my guts out. The acting was some of the worst acting that I have ever seen in a film to date. This movie was basically made for the Church of Scientology to promote its crazy dogma. This is a review from 2 days ago in November of 2019, just so you know. Moving on. 1 star. A 3-year-old could have made a better movie. I'll largely agree with that. A 3-year-old as a director could have thrown this together because not only is the acting atrocious in every regard that you can imagine, but the actual plot points in this movie, they are taken pretty much correctly from the novel, and yet the novel actually makes it work and explains how these things are supposed to work. The movie kind of just plucks these plot points out of the novel, drops them in cookie cutter fashion, and there's no attempt to make this realistic or to show you the logical steps between these plot points. And so everything is ridiculous nonsense, and the simplest concepts, the simplest happenings in this movie are glaring plot holes that make no sense. You have a post-apocalyptic world in which somehow primitive cavemen like humans, they can repair 100-year-old F-18 fighters that are stored underground. It's so ridiculous and over the top and crazy. For example, you have aliens that are training humans to mine gold, and yet no explanation on why the aliens, who are more capable physically in every way than a human, can't just mine this gold with their strength and their technology, but yet they need the scrawny caveman humans to mine the gold. And at the same time, the humans that don't know anything, they are cavemen essentially, they actually are able to smelt the gold into bars to present to the aliens, and the aliens don't have a problem with this. There's just so much. I'm not even doing it justice. There are so many things that make sense in the novel that are explained, that aren't explained in this movie. It is completely over the top ridiculous. And what makes it really fun is John Travolta just continues to play it straight. He must have been aware how bad this was, what a butcher job of the story this was. And yet he continues to play it straight, to play a straight-up mustache-twirling villain, and he looks so goofy in his alien outfit, and so do his co-stars. I could be here for 5 hours bagging on this, but let's just continue through the reviews. Oh, first I'll give you my star. If I had to rate this as a star, I would give it half a star because a movie was actually made and paychecks were drawn by people involved in the production. As far as the story and the movie itself, it would be a 0. It would literally be a 0 because the 3-year-old could just randomly slap scenes together and make something like this. No joke. 3.5 stars. Epic science adventure in post-apocalyptic Earth. Yeah, epic, epically funny. How bad it is. 1 star. When an alien species takes over Earth, the humans finally decide to rise up and fight back. Watching Battlefield Earth is like taking a shit that just doesn't want to come out. It's frustrating, it's messy, and it only serves to screw up your day. In fact, this movie is so painful that I am forcing myself to watch it until I finish this review. Man, you should see how fast I'm typing right now. Acting 3, less than 2 minutes in, the movie has one of those blood-curdling no screams. Yeah, the acting is atrocious, really bad, on top of the ridiculous plot holes. It's almost indescribably bad. You have to see it for yourself. You really do. It is so bad that it's good. 1 star. Not quite the worst movie of all time, but pretty ordinary nonetheless. I wouldn't bother. No, there's nothing ordinary about this. It's so bad. No, it's not ordinary. Half a star. Battlefield Earth wants to be a sci-fi epic, but instead feels more like an over-the-top parody that was converted into a feature that you're meant to take seriously at the last minute. Yes, I agree 100%. This could be a parody. You might think that it was meant as that, but no, they want you to take this 100% serious. That's the weirdness of this. That's the beauty of this disaster. The acting is terrible. The camera work depends way too much on Dutch angles. The visuals and special effects look cheap, and the story is an illogical plot hole-laden mess. If anyone ever talks to you about how another random sci-fi blockbuster was the worst film they've ever seen, ask them, dude, have you ever seen Battlefield Earth? You know, that's 100% on the point. There are a lot of Dutch angles, meaning that the camera is like tilted at a, at an angle from left to right, which is used in some films well. It's used to show like a kind of out of the normal realm view of what's going on, somebody that's drunk, or it's, somebody that's in a state of mind that isn't right. In this case, they just use a lot of those Dutch camera angles for no particular reason, even though they're not trying to tell you that the point of view character is drunk. So it's another very, very weird aspect to this film. Half a star. Not too bad. Not only the worst. This movie is worse than worst. Not long, or too long, too unlogical, too stupid, and the cameraman is shooting only in an aslant perspective. Again, that's that Dutch angle. The whole movie is strange colored. The acting is horrible, and the aliens look like NBA players with dreadlocks. Yeah, exactly. You see John Travolta and his alien co-stars, and they've got like foot-high platform shoes on and dreadlocks, and they're playing like mustache-twirling villain caricatures is pretty bizarre by any stretch. Half a star. For Scientologists, yeah, it's again the reviewer saying that this was just made to impress Scientologists. I don't know if that's what the angle was. It comes across to me as this was supposed to ingratiate John Travolta into Scientology, like maybe, I don't know, unseat Tom Cruise as the de facto actor leader of Scientology, but it didn't work, and so I guess John Travolta will continue to be taking orders from Tom Cruise in the church. I don't know. 4 stars. Rotten Tomatoes, like any other movie, TV show critic, is solely based on their own specific tastes. Same as me or anyone else. I have watched Battlefield Earth 4 times in my life. The movie was great. It had many well-known actors in it, including John Travolta. I mean John Travolta, who doesn't love a John Travolta movie. The story of the movie was unique and had a lot of small separate ideas for side stories as well as the main theme. For its time when the movie was created, it also had a lot of great CGI. This is coming across to me as a review from somebody inside the compound at the Church of Scientology. They're forced to do this, perhaps against their will. I don't know. It's very weird. Half a star. Possibly the worst movie ever made. The camera angles are terrible. The acting is the worst. The script and dialogue is awful. Again, we're in 2019 reviews. I don't expect to see too many that are positive unless they are actually coming from inside that camp or that compound that's controlled by Scientologists, or that gigantic LA cathedral. Maybe they've got like a little room in there, like a little boiler room with people sitting there pecking out reviews on this film. That's why I think there are 5-star reviews here, at least in my opinion. 2 stars. Ha 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 ha. Oh my god, I read so many bad reviews for this movie and I thought, oh my god, everyone is exaggerating, can't be that bad, right? Holy crap, they were all right. It's not just the plot, it's the acting. I can act way better pissed drunk. This was more of a comedy to me than a sci-fi flick. I refuse to believe whoever made this was satisfied with the final product before releasing it, because this was straight trash. Yeah, it's very bizarre because you know that the director or the producers had to know what they had when the final cut of this was made. Yet it continued. It almost seems like maybe John Travolta was there and he had like the proverbial gun to the production crew's head saying, you will release this or else. Maybe he had the Church of Scientology behind him making the threat. In my opinion, just saying, it seems like, an explanation for a crazy movie like this getting into the theater. Half a star. Battlefield Earth is what happened when Alien ate Blade Runner and threw it up on RoboCop. That's too kind. Don't even mention those other movies. You don't even want to tarnish them by mentioning them with Battlefield Earth. Half a star. Often regarded as one of the worst movies of all time, it is easy to see why such a negative recognition is heavily deserved for this gigantic waste of time. Everything in this movie was awful. Directing, acting, writing, editing, effects, script, story, characters, you name it. Do I really need to say anything else? It is truly one of the worst movies ever made. Overall rating 0. Yeah, I agree 100%. They're not exaggerating. If you don't believe us, check it out for yourself. Half a star. Battlefield Earth is just an absolutely atrocious, boring sci-fi snooze fest. 5 stars. Uh-oh, 5 stars. One of the few films in Hollywood that stick to the sci-fi idea itself, but not to the earnings and ratings. Absolutely refreshing comparing to the Star Wars or similar franchises. Yes, it does have plot points taken straight out of the novel. I've read the novel. But again, taken out of it in a fucking 3-year-old fashion. 3-year-old child's way of taking the plot points out and putting them in a film. Half a star. Terrible. Caveman, learn to fly Harriers, leave now. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, part of the story involves cavemen learning how to repair and return like century-old Harrier jets into service and fly them on top of that with just a few practice sessions on a flight simulator that they've also repaired somehow. 5 stars. Battlefield Earth is a masterpiece. Beautifully shot, soulfully acted, and just brilliant in terms of narrative structure and storytelling. This movie finds star John Travolta at his very best, and deservingly so, considering that he spent years trying to bring this project to the silver screen. Okay, I know John's over your shoulder at the boiler room telling you to post this. It is kind of funny, so I'll leave it like that. Um, 1.5 stars. Dear God, this is worse than Ed Wood movies on a dollar by dollar basis. The writing is lacking of reason and logic. The principles of science are ignored. The acting is awful by Travolta with even racist sidekick overtones. Not the worst movie I have ever seen, but definitely less enjoyable than a root canal. Beware, this is excruciating in its length and mindless in every other aspect of plot and script. Yeah, there are so many problems with the plot and script aside from the acting that originally I was going to, make a little short list myself of what they were so I wouldn't forget to name these problems during this rotten review. But then I quickly just like threw that pad down and forgot about it because there's no way I could list them all. There's no way I could do justice to it. There's just something wrong with it no matter where you want to start. There wasn't a point of me making a short list, a long list, or any other list. It's pointless. Just check it out for yourself. It's so bad. 0.5 star. Movie was horrible. Worst movie I have ever seen. Plot holes, horrible acting in situations, only slightly worse than Captain Marvel. No, it's far worse than Captain Marvel. This isn't just a problem with wooden acting or bad acting. Every aspect of this film fails. Every aspect of it goes into parody territory, and yet it wants you to take this 100% serious. That's why I don't even think being inebriated in some fashion that you would laugh too much at this. You can try, but I don't think it would do it for me. 0.5 star. John Travolta is a good actor, but this is one of the worst science fiction movies I have ever watched. While I have never read the L. Ron Hubbard book it's based off of, this movie doesn't make me want to. John Travolta does look like he's having fun playing the villain Terrell, but that's probably because the Church of Scientology convinced him that people will want to join their religion after watching it, but they stayed far away after the final project came out. This movie was supposed to spawn a sequel. Well, I don't think that was the intention. I think that this was just to get into the good graces, to up his rank in the Church of Scientology, so to speak. That's what it comes across to me as, in my opinion, because there's nothing about the plot of Battlefield Earth that has to do with Scientology. I know I read the book, and nothing about it comes across like that, and nothing about this film does, so no, I don't think it's not a recruiting gimmick, that's for sure. 0.5 star, exhausting to watch. Yeah, 1 star, often considered one of the worst films ever made, and a punchline. Battlefield Earth is an abomination of a movie. Virtually everything about this movie is disappointing. As one would expect from a post-apocalyptic tale, it vaguely echoes everything from Planet of the Apes to the Omega Man. There is no evidence that anyone involved with this project can act. Travolta looking like a Klingon reject from one of the Star Trek movies is completely wrong for the part of Terrell. Yeah, exactly. He looks like a really hammed up Klingon wannabe reject, but he plays it completely straight like he's doing an Academy Award winning job. He comes across like he's convinced how good he is. 3 stars. Maybe I should rewrite this. Let's see. I know a couple of sci-fi and fantasy geeks that really liked this. I liked it, but it was overly long and dragged out, in need of back to the editing room for some tick and machete editing magic, and throw in some kick-ass tunes. Then it would have been a 4-star movie, or maybe higher, who knows. The right editing and soundtrack could have made all the difference. I would like to see the re-edited version if it were done right. Well, don't wait around for somebody else to do this. Just go ahead and make your own fan edit if you're convinced that you can do better, because you probably can. You can probably do a fan edit of this on free editing software and make a superior movie, but I don't want to see it. 1 star. This is just a case where I laughed at how poor the movie is. Yeah, you might laugh. You might laugh if you try hard and maybe you drink. I don't know. I'm not so sure on that, though. That's the problem. 4 stars. In an age of trolls and indifference, it is easy to understand why this movie is considered rotten. Written by the creator of Scientology and starring one of the most famous devotees, the skeptical don't need much more than that to avoid this like the plague. The truth is, it's actually a damn smart and enjoyable sci-fi classic. Wrong. I know you're in the Church of Scientology. You think you're damn smart. You think that, your alien sci-fi epic church is going to cleanse all the alien entities from your body and you'll reach some kind of nirvana, probably, right? But no, that doesn't make this movie good. Sorry. If you do escape from the church, maybe come back and edit your review. That's what I'm saying. Half a star, worst movie ever. I mean ever. 5 stars, classic, amazing, very funny, 1 out of 100. They're saying very funny with question marks, so I think they're serious. So again, they're also trapped inside the church somewhere. Half a star, because most of the shots are at a 90-degree angle, I sometimes feel the movie is going to slide off the screen. Also, this movie sucks. Yeah, it's actually a 45-degree angle, I believe, to be technical about it, Dutch angle. Yeah, it is really weird the way that just adds to the weirdness of it. Half a star, catastrophe, yeah. Half a star, certainly one of the most poorly made movies in the history of movie making. The acting is laughable, while the premise and plot in its entirety are completely nonsensical. The special effects are fundamentally flawed and clumsily used. Battlefield Earth will always be hailed as one of the worst things ever made by humans. Yeah, one of the worst things made by humans that's in the world of art, that didn't actually kill humans, yeah. Half a star. From the floppy claws to the doofy script, this movie was a poster advertising a stupid religion thinly disguised as sci-fi. Its principal message to the audience was, "You're even more stupid than these aliens, lap it up." Yeah, it's, John Travolta's performance is kind of telling the audience, you must be stupid if you believe that I'm serious. Half a star. Congratulations, Roger. You have made the biggest, messiest stain on Hollywood there ever was. This was extremely unwatchable with overuse of color filters and Dutch angles, bad acting, sucky special effects, constant cackling, and slow motion, not to mention the consistent amount of plot holes, and most of the time it's irrelevant to the novel. Roger, Christian, what were you thinking? This is more of a snooze fest to flute people to sleep pretending to be a movie. Yeah, the director, I believe I saw an interview with him, and he's not a Scientologist. He tried to make an excuse on what happened, but it didn't come off as being coherent. He's failed to make an excuse for this. I don't understand. Maybe he went into hiding. It is completely bizarre. I was actually interested in seeing what kind of excuse he could come up with, but he didn't provide one. He just kind of said, well, a lot of things happened and I'm not sure and I don't know and blah, blah, blah. He never explained anything. I find it likely he's in hiding. This is in 2018, these reviews now. Half a star, for sure one of the worst movies of all time. So ugly and disgusting looking, with the worst and most ugliest makeup and hairstyling possible. Terrible acting, really bad script, and very stupid and ridiculous decisions made. Barry Pepper plays the worst hero ever, and John Travolta plays the worst villain ever. Really despise this movie. Complete waste of life. I really wish I could have given this disaster 0 stars. Yeah, I agree completely. I don't know what anyone was thinking. Other than John Travolta, I think I have that figured out. The other actors, I have no idea, because when they saw how bad this was, I don't know if they were obligated because they had already signed a contract and had to finish it. I don't know how that works. But yeah, Barry Pepper should have turned tail and ran. Half a star. What was Roger Christian thinking? I don't know. I don't know. I've seen one interview where he tried to explain, but it's not an explanation. I don't know. Half a star. If I could give this rubbish a lower star rating, I would. Clearly written by an unhinged half-wit with delusions of grandeur. Vanity productions on a ridiculous scale. Demented. Yeah, it comes across as perhaps John Travolta's vanity project, like he was threatening everybody to finish this thing. Maybe his performance as Terrell the alien really maybe it creeped them out to the point that they were afraid not to, please him, and they had to produce this movie. They thought he would snap and, do something to everybody because he plays a completely weird, mustache twirling villain, and he's really sure of himself. Half a star. This is such a bad movie that I made it 15 minutes and then turned it off. Then tried again, made it in 10 minutes. Maybe someday I might finish it, but not today. Yeah, you know why I finished it? Because I wanted to see just how bad it was if it continued that all the way through the movie, and it doesn't disappoint. When you think you've seen the cringiest you can see, no, it continues like that all the way through to the end of this film. It doesn't let up, not for a second. 1 star, Leverage, the movie. If you couldn't get enough of the trade disputes from the Star Wars prequels, then you're going to love this movie. An alien invasion and a post-apocalyptic Earth are just window dressing for the core story of office politics. Almost all the action scenes are filmed in slow motion and at an angle. The color palette is dingy, the effects are poor, the costumes are ridiculous, the music is passable, so there's my one positive thing to say. Forest Whitaker, what are you doing here? Yeah, Forest Whitaker really hams it up as an alien right alongside Travolta, and he seems to be enjoying himself. I don't know if there's an interview out there explaining what he was thinking. I might be interested in seeing that. 1 star, if the constant seesawing of Dutch angles doesn't make you nauseous, John Travolta's performance will. Rewatch. After a misadventure as appalling as this, and having come up with no better name for the villains, humanity honestly deserves to be conquered by the Cyclos. Yeah, the villains are called Cyclos. That's taken right from the L. Ron Hubbard book. But seeing John Travolta's performance as a psycho, it kind of fits. It's weirdly meta in that way. Half a star, Scientology at its best, which is the worst. This is actually worse than the actual, for example, Dianetics or L. Ron Hubbard's actual official Scientology writings are actually better than what this movie is showing you plot-wise. The actual book of Battlefield Earth is not bad. I mean, it is what it is. It is a very long sci-fi epic. It is not bad. It is nowhere near as bad as this movie. Anyway, half a star. I could say it's the whole in a donut. Cheesy dialogue, over-underacted, nonsensical plot, unconvincing production design and makeup, and a total mess in direction, as if 5 directors sat in a chair and tried to outrank each other. Yeah, it's all one director, but maybe John Travolta locked him away and took over under threat of something real bad. I don't know. 3.5 stars. I actually enjoyed it. The bad acting to me was pure comedy and gold. Yes, if you can find this as a comedy, you will laugh. Now, again, I reviewed M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, and I encourage people to watch that just as a comedy and enjoy it, and it is funny. This one, though, you have to try pretty hard to view it as a comedy. It's shot in a way that wants to take itself seriously. But the acting and everything is straight up comedy gold, sure. But it just doesn't have the camera technique to be a comedy. Otherwise, yeah. 1 star. Finally saw Battlefield Earth, the worst movie ever made. Yeah. 4.5 stars. I liked this movie as a kid, and I like it now. Rat Brain Critics. As a kid, you were brought into the Church of Scientology by your parents. You may still be in that church, so okay, but just someday you're going to get over the wall, and you can come back and put an honest review on here. 5 stars. I'm giving this the maximum rating because it's stupid fun. I don't know what it is about this movie, but I think this movie might be the Room of bad movies for me. In fact, I like this movie better than The Room. It's fun, it's silly, it doesn't take itself seriously. Why do I consider this movie as a guilty pleasure? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe it does hit you on that level. I haven't seen The Room. I know, didn't Brie Larson star in The Room and get an Academy Award? I have to watch that and see if that's along these lines of really bad. I don't think it is, though. I think maybe if you smoke a lot of some stuff, you will find this is a straight comedy, and maybe that works for The Room too, unless you're talking about a different The Room. There might be several movies with that name, so I could be wrong. But no, this is worse than anything else I've heard of in recent decades, at least. 5 stars. John Travolta is at his very best in his own very own sci-fi masterpiece. That's like, yeah, straight up sarcasm. 5 stars. I am dismayed at the lack of a good audience score for this movie. It is maybe the best so bad it's good movies ever made. This is a great movie to watch with friends. You can make it into a drinking game or just sit back and enjoy the nonstop laughs. This is a wildly entertaining movie. Okay, okay. I'll take you at your word on that. It could be. 3.5 stars. Look at all these filthy man animals giving this film a low rating. That's a line from Travolta. He would call the humans filthy man animals. And the way he hams it up and does that in a mustache twirling way, it is laughable. 0.5 star. If you think of this one as a serious sci-fi movie, you won't like it. I consider it a comedy, and as such have watched it more than once. Okay. 0.5 star. One of the worst movies I've ever seen, and I like Batman and Robin. The Dutch angles are just awful, and it looks like the movie is sinking. John Travolta is just terrible with his overacting. I've only seen this movie once, and I'll never watch it again. You know, speaking of John Travolta, I watch other movie reviewers, and one of them, Chris Stuckman, I believe, he reviewed this movie once in one of his Hilariosity reviews, but he also reviewed a more recent 2019 John Travolta movie in one of his Hilariosity reviews. I can't remember the name of it, but it's competing with this one for bad John Travolta that might be funny just watching him, just watching his performance, except this one's different and better because you can see the sheer amount of money that blew up and burned down and was shoveled into a furnace as John Travolta, acted in the worst way possible. So yeah, if you want to find that other movie by John Travolta, it's also a 2019 movie. He plays like an obsessed fan that stalks a celebrity. And yeah, his performance in that is almost as bad as this, but this one's a little more crazy because in this one, of course, he's a crazy-looking alien, and he enjoys that. So I still give it to this one. 0.5 star. This pile of garbage makes Batman and Robin look like an Oscar contender, and I hate Batman and Robin. If I could, I would rate this laughable crap a 0. Nah, you have to give this 0.5 star because everybody involved in it got a paycheck. You know, it put food on the table, so it gives, I mean, that's just like as a cog in the wheel of the economy, it serves its function. But yeah, as a movie, 0, sure. 0.5 star. The acting was so bad, especially by John Travolta. We barely made it to the end of the movie, and only because we were enjoying the laugh. But really, if you want a better laugh, watch one of the old Japanese Godzilla movies where the lip sync is off by a second or two. Yeah, if you did an edit of this where you just shifted the lip sync a little on this, like one of those old Godzilla movies, this might be just straight up hilarious. Um, that probably wouldn't be difficult to do, just as quick run through, offset the audio a little. Yes, I could see in that regard, this would be a masterpiece of comedy. Yeah. 1 star. The worst movie I've seen more than once. Battlefield Earth has it all. Bad acting, bad CGI, bad directing, bad dialogue, and so on. The closest thing we get to a good performance comes from John Travolta, who seems to be in a completely different movie, and honestly, I paid money to see that movie. Yeah, he thinks he's doing some kind of Academy Award performance here. He really seems to believe it. There are a few moments of unintentional hilarity, but not nearly enough to justify watching this movie. Okay, to be fair, you should watch this movie once and only once, just so that after that, every time you see it, yeah, you have something to refer to. Because, yeah, it's still not enough to be just funny by itself, unless you tampered with it some more. 5 stars. This was an excellent movie. Sorry for the poor guys whom didn't understand it. This site has lost credibility a lot. Well, if you're not in the Church of Scientology, then you're not going to like tell us it's 5 stars. I mean, because there isn't anything that makes this funny, like, say, The Happening. It doesn't make you laugh out loud, so even on that basis, it doesn't need 5 stars. I mean, I just have this image of somebody that's trapped in the Church of Scientology and they're being forced to put 5-star reviews on this and maybe a lot of other products out there by Scientologists. That's the only thing I can imagine. 2.5 stars. I don't know. I think it's one of those so bad it's good movies. Not quite, not quite. It needs a little more tampering. Again, make a bad lip sync. 2.5 stars. Interestingly bad through my eyes. It's fascinating. How could it be so bad? You just wonder, how did this happen? That's interesting. 1 star. Rating 1.4 out of 10. Half-baked schlock that's hard on the eyes. A sledgehammer to the brain. A sledgehammer to the brain, but has a score that's pleasant to the ears. I don't remember the score. It's the least you're going to remember from this. Half a star. No doubt the worst film ever made, followed closely by the Garbage Pail Kids movie. I'm not sure. Half a star. Yeah, the terrible acting, ugly costume design, and silly premise is going to be a no for me. We are in 2017 reviews here. Half a star. John Travolta provides those unfortunate enough to struggle through 2 hours of awful acting, weird design, an uncountable amount of Dutch angles, and a fascinatingly bad story. 4 stars. A pretty decent movie to see. I remember seeing it as a child and I still like it. The big scale idea of the movie itself is inspiring. A post-apocalyptic world ruled by aliens and people reduced to primitive lifestyle, having to rediscover modern technology and history. Although at times it is rather dark and monotonous, it is in its entirely a rather brilliant movie. That sounds like somebody that actually read the book but didn't watch the movie, or they're confusing them, because you see, in the book, this is actually decent because they explain in the book, or L. Ron Hubbard explains quite well in the book, and it's paced quite well, how humans that are essentially primitive creatures get smart enough to repair jets and etc. But this movie doesn't do that. It just kind of shows them becoming that after a few sessions in what amounts to a bad ripoff of a Total Recall chair machine. It's really bad. 5 stars. Loved it. Don't know what all the fuss is about. I don't think you watched this, really. I don't believe you. 1 star. Worst movie ever, which is really sad considering the book is one of my all-time favorites and deserves to be better represented on film. I'll agree with that. The book wasn't bad, but it's really incredibly long. I don't know the word count, but it's huge, even for an epic sci-fi. So I have a hard time believing that anybody's going to be able to bring it into one film and do a decent job. Maybe a mini-series, sure. Now that it's been 17 years since this movie was made, they really need to bury it and make a new one to do the book justice. Again, I think the only way you could possibly pull that off is to make it some kind of mini-series with a decent budget. It could be pulled off in that fashion, but not in a single movie. 1/2 star. This was a joke of a film, not worth my time. 1/2 star. How the fuck did this dumbass superior alien race who needs gold manage to invade the human race and not know about Fort fucking Knox? Yeah, that's a part in the book and the movie, but the movie again fails to set this up. The aliens, they want the humans to mine gold. Okay, so the humans figure out when they get smarter that it's easier to just go find Fort Knox, get the gold out of it, and present that to the aliens. Rather than waste time digging it out, they could be doing other things behind the aliens' backs. And this works perfectly, and it's set up perfectly and logically in the book. This fails completely in the movie and looks completely ridiculous, and even the logic of the aliens going along with it is complete ridiculousness. So yeah, it's another case of a decent plot point and a setup in the book utterly is destroyed in the film. 1/2 star. Whoa, this movie shit, you all. The camera is turning the angle and John Travolta has the annoying British accent. Yeah, his portrayal of the Cyclo alien, he brings a really bad British accent to it on top. I don't know why he chose that, but he thought this was Academy Award winning. It was groundbreaking, and you can see it in his performance. That's why it's so hilariously bad. 1/2 star. Wants to give it 0 stars. Yeah. 4.5 stars. I obviously stand in the minority on this issue, but I really liked the movie. I do think you have to read the book to fill in the storyline of this massive story. I have no leverage to make you watch it, but you should. Yeah, because we're not inside the compound and we don't have to do what the Scientology people tell us to do, which may be the case for you. I'm sorry. But yes, the book is not nearly as bad as this. The book makes logical sense. However, you cannot expect any book to fill in the shortcomings of a movie. No movie can be excused of its badness because there's a book out there that somehow fills in the missing parts. This is a complete cinematic fail. Don't make that argument. Half a star. This is the worst action flick ever. 3 stars. So what if it's a bad sci-fi flick? I love it. If you love it, why give it 3 stars? Why not 5? Half a star. Confusing, dumb movie. The first few minutes, it's alright, but after the shooting in the abandoned mall and the capturing of the 3 characters, it goes extreme fast downhill. Lots of confusing scenes in the beginning made me decide to stop the movie after 20 minutes. I've got better things to do than watching 2 hours of stupidness. Yeah, I'll agree with that. But if you would just hang in there longer, you would find a lot more to laugh at. You have seen nothing. If you stopped when they just got captured, you haven't seen John Travolta's performance hamming it up as an alien. Oh, you haven't got to the good parts yet. Half a star. This movie is so laughable that it doesn't even deserve a full star. As for John Travolta, I've lost faith in you if you keep starring in crap movies like this. Well, this was back in 2000. He's got another one where he tried to make it as bad as this 2019 movie. Between, it's not that good or that bad. He's had hits and misses, but this truly sticks out as him just becoming insane. 5 stars. Haters gonna hate, but I liked it in 2000 and I like it now. I think people don't like it, but they just can't handle the style of comedy. It takes a certain level of sophistication to get it. Okay, they're kind of making fun of it. Yeah, it does. If you like a certain kind of comedy, you'll just laugh at this, but me, it wasn't my thing. Half a star. If you watch the movie and fail to enjoy Battlefield Earth, you will have to pay another £5,000 to watch the film again. Um, that's probably an in-movie reference, but I don't get it. 5 stars. Holy crap, this movie is life-changing. You don't even know. It could be if you laugh a lot. Half a star. That's what I get for watching a movie based on a book from the founder of Scientology. The book really wasn't that bad, I'm telling you. Half a star. Thought the book was awful, but thought the movie might redeem the plot. Was wrong. No, the book wasn't awful, but it was very long. You have to really like a long sci-fi epic. I mean, it's really long. The book I read when I was in high school, it had Bible-like thin pages to it in print, literally. It was that long. Half a star. I heard that this film is terrible, but that did not prepare me for what is one of the worst ever. It is just horrible in everything. Half a star. Scientology Earth, worst Hollywood film ever. 1 star. This movie is boring. The makeup is phony, and it tries to rip off Star Wars every 10 minutes with those unnecessary shot transitions. This movie thinks that having long words and a complicated plot means that it will be awesome, but it isn't. By the way, the acting sucks. The only compliment I can give this movie is at least it isn't Superman 4, the worst movie I have ever seen. Maybe I should do one of these on Superman 4. I would have to watch it again because it's been so many years. I know it's bad. 1 star. I have a hunch that when recruiting, the Scientologists aren't showing Battlefield Earth because they doubt their numbers would be as strong. This movie is a horrible, horrible thing with a story that makes little sense. Hammy acting from almost all involved, silly makeup, and cheesy effects that don't hold up too well. There really isn't a lot to like. It is, however, unintentionally hilarious at times. Watch with friends and laugh at how bad it really is. I agree. You can get a watch party going on this and just bring the beer, etc., the smoke, and just enjoy yourselves. Yeah. Half a star. Set in the year 3000, a millennium after the Cyclo-Master race invades Earth and enslaves humanity, this has Travolta as a 10-foot-tall alien who gets around in dreadlocks, nose plugs, and Kiss boots. Yeah, it does look like he's at a Kiss concert or he's trying to do a bad Gene Simmons impersonation. Even more over the top is his performance, which is all mohahaing and almost Shakespearean declamation of evil. Barry Pepper's terrible too, bringing Christian Bale levels of intensity to his cave warrior. What also makes this badly watchable is that director Roger Christian shoots every scene. Yeah, it's the Dutch angles. Yeah, that's, they bring up something interesting. Barry Pepper's pretty bad too. He does come across as like Christian Bale in, several things Christian Bale's been in, like Terminator Genesis, There are other Christian Bale movies where he's seriously trying to act, but it's coming across really off-putting. Barry Pepper does come across like that in this movie. That's a very good observation. Half a star, a film infamous for reaching a badness of extraordinary proportion by being a crash and burn on every technical level. Battlefield Earth has a story riddled with plot holes and inconsistencies, trashy sets and effects, ludicrous dialogue, hammy performances, cacophonous score, choppy editing, and awkward wipe transitions. Aliens masqueraded as grubby Rastafarians, transparently trudging on 4-foot lifts. Worst of all, Battlefield is very off-putting to view with its incredibly, they do bring up another thing. It does have weird wipe transitions. Somebody else said that too. They called it Star Wars-like transitions. Yeah, you know the original Star Wars where it wipes from the droids on Tatooine to back on the Star Destroyer or the Death Star. Does that wipe effect. It worked in the Star Wars A New Hope, but it doesn't work in Battlefield Earth. But yeah, there is that kind of wipe effect here. It's rather strange. 5 stars. Definitely makes the worst movies ever list, but if you live bad, you can't miss this one. Nah, it's not really, like I said, sober. Most people won't laugh. That's the problem. Half a star. I'd rather die than watch this movie again. It has terrible, terrible acting, terrible visuals, some of the worst camera work and cinematography ever. Battlefield Earth is the worst movie I've ever seen. 1 star, a poorly made film that was a waste of time. I really like both John Travolta and Forest Whitaker, but this film was really bad. 4 stars, I must be the only person in the world who liked this movie. Although it wasn't intended, I found it quite comical and entertaining. Okay, fair enough. 1 star, worse than its ridiculous overuse of Dutch angles, color filters, and cheap special effects is how overwhelmingly illogical this dreadful piece of junk is, with such a colossal amount of plot holes and incoherences, however curious and amusing it is to observe the many ways it finds to get worse. Yeah, it's worth watching just to find out, will this be bad all the way through like this? And it is, and it's amazing. It's amazing when you think about how did this actually make it into movie theaters? How? Half a star, bland, boring, and has too many problems to count, so stupid. Half a star, one of the worst movies of all time. And I'm going to leave it there. I kind of want to continue, and I'd like to go through and just find 5-star reviews just to make fun of them and see if they're Scientology members. But it's hard to tell most of the time, and just thinking about this movie too much is tiring me out. But it deserves the 3% tomato meter and the 12% audience score. It deserves like a 1% audience score. I'm surprised it's not at 1%. But you have to check this out. I highly recommend watching this. I highly recommend watching this just so that you can believe how badly a movie can be produced. How bad can it be in every regard? Please watch this. No, I don't work for Scientology. I just want people to know how bad this is. So when I reference it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I will see you again on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.